Hi, everybody. My name is Mary Slowinski, and I'm the innovation coach for Create. We're going first because it's always good practice to do that. I did bring a few notes just to make sure that we don't have any fancy PowerPoints, don't have any prezzies, but hopefully I'll be tap dancing up here soon enough. The project that we chose to scale up is our Teaching Skills Workshops, which is a TSW. And actually we were looking at kind of a two-part to that at first when we started the scaling process and we honed in on the TSWs. The TSWs are essentially designed to try and take technicians who are coming into the classroom and turn them into technical educators. Oftentimes people are coming in to teach and they don't have any teaching skills at all, as was just referenced, the wonderful segue of the three wise men, I'm sorry. It's active learning at its best. The people that are running it are not considered to be the leads or the lecturers or anything of the kind. They're facilitators. So it involves a lot of peer verbal and written feedback. They get up and they practice what they're learning, and it's had tremendous success. We get a lot of really great feedback from our participants and our completers. It's really 100% positive feedback. Our first efforts at scaling prior to Synergy were to do what we called, and this is the second part of this, is the FDW, or the Facilitator Development Workshop. And what we did was we brought folks into California and we trained them to facilitate these TSWs with the thought that they would return to their home campuses and they would grow this process, that they could offer the TSWs at their home campus and thus propagate the world of with TSWs, right? Didn't work out so well. One of the things that and part of our synergy process was identifying why was that not happening. And we're not done with that yet. We're still looking at it. But some of the things that we found were they didn't have the support on their home campuses. I mean, I was one of those people. That's how I got involved with it. I returned to my campus completely, excited about it. I can do this. I was fully trained and fully able to do it. But, you get back home and it's like, TS what? Where are we going to fund this? How are we going to do this? What are you talking about? There was just no support for it that we needed to have. The other thing that was really challenging is that people would come from across the country, get trained, and go home. And we lacked community. Another segue from the three wise men. They didn't have that that support. They didn't have somebody to help them keep going. So we started, and the last thing that was really a challenge was who to choose as a facilitator to be trained. And that's an ongoing question that we still continue to struggle with, because how do you identify the qualities that make somebody be really good at that? We would get mixed groups. People would, programs would send people in, they would self-select, they would come in, we would train, and some of them would be very good facilitators and be able to handle that, and some of them not so much. There was a lot of interpersonal skills that maybe weren't there or what have you. So FDWs were our first attempt to scale, pre-Synergy. We got to Synergy thinking we're going to scale the TSW FDW. That was what we thought. It took us 1 year to disconnect those two things and to recognize that we needed to scale one, and that was TSW, that the FDW was a scaling effort. So that took us a while. That was a big learning. That was fantastic. Actually, it was San Francisco, for those of you that were around back then. And that's when we figured that one out. So then we turned our attention to the fact that they didn't have community and that the completers weren't necessarily able to talk to one another, and they weren't able to kind of, continue the enthusiasm that they had when they finished the actual face-to-face. And for that, we took another, unfortunately, things roll slowly, another year to develop what we're calling the Getting Results Workshop. For those of you that are familiar with the League's work, on Getting Results, it's a website on the web. It has lessons, lots of videos, interactive content, etc. We broke those up over 12 weeks, and we had a group who had just finished a TSW in California go over 12 weeks and look at those materials just a little bit at a time and then discuss them. They had online discussions. It was all online. We're surveying them now, again, anecdotally. We don't have any hard data yet back from them, but anecdotally, we've had a huge success. We had 8 originally go in, and we had 7 finish fully through the 12 weeks, which was great. And they were better I was a facilitator, and they were more on time than I was sometimes. So that's been successful. But we still weren't hitting the mark. We were getting that community now. We tested the community, and that's good. And I think that's something that we'll continue to work on. But we still weren't getting what we really wanted, and that was to get this spread a little bit more. So our achievement and our unanticipated success came from our N=1 Westmoreland. Westmoreland actually approached us at the ATPI conference, and they said, you know, we can't send people. We need it now, and we need you to come here. So we actually went to their campus, and we had 3 TSWs and 1 FDW. So we had 12 faculty get trained to go into the classroom and teach better. Teach better, that's not right, but let it go. The FDW, we ran an FDW, a facilitator development workshop. So what we ended up doing was leaving Westmoreland in the ice and snow of January. Yeah, it was like, wait a second, you're going to Phoenix in July and you're going to Pittsburgh in January. That's backwards. But we left them, and we left them with 4 facilitators and 12 faculty who had been trained. Shills in the audience, to be sure, because again, when you finish one of these things, people are just dancing on the tables. They're so excited about it. Well, they've had tremendous success. We can't take full credit for it, but we sowed the seeds, and the seeds actually really took off. They're using it as part of their accreditation. They're still doing it and still actually adapting it. So there are 1 n = 1 implementer. So some of the things that we're learning from them is how to, well, let go. That was last year's lesson. Let the adaptation happen. We've also learned that as they adapt, they're actually making it stronger for themselves, and we're learning from them. Another synergy lesson I think that a lot of the centers have gone through. And most of all, we've learned about community. Just echoing again the 3 gentlemen that were at the front, probably the #1 thing we've found is that it's easier to continue community than it is to rebuild it. So we're finding that proximity and continuity and all of these things are really critical, not just in terms of working with our TSW completers, but also with working with our partners and also working with scale. It just has to, we have to keep moving on it, or you end up having to rebuild things that you've already kind of covered and done. So that's CREATE.
So I'm going to tell you a little bit about what SCME is and what we do. We're the Southwest Center for Microsystems Education. We develop curriculum to help tech colleges teach a little bit about MEMS, microelectromechanical systems, and that sort of thing. And we've been around for a while. And so we create materials, we do professional development and dissemination, and we thought, you know, build it and everybody will use it. It didn't work that way. So I'm going to let Jim tell you a little bit about the experiment.
One of our primary offerings is a microsystems pressure sensor workshop. This exercise, we brought in teachers that would go ahead and actually use a fabrication facility to build a pressure sensor at the micro level. Along with that, they would receive instruction to bring back these suites of materials and kits back into their classroom so they could teach the concepts of fabrication. We had originally believed that they needed these materials in order to aid them to have the clean room in a kit, is what we refer to it as, so that they would be able to present these concepts knowing that they wouldn't have the access to fabrication. That's a very extremely high price for admission into that realm of education. So we wanted to have these folks at least be able to teach the concepts in the classroom. Prior to our innovation, these instructors were using the kits to the tune of 15 to 20% was their utilization rate. And coming out of industry, we understood that 15 to 20% was extremely low. So when Synergy came around, it was at a perfect point in time to where we decided to utilize the Synergy process, the concepts and the tools, to go ahead and increase that utilization rate. We are extremely blessed with the idea that we had something that was measurable. We thought we would be successful if we could demonstrate that instead of 15 to 20% utilization, we got X amount of utilization. So we went ahead and we changed the workshop. The very long story short is we applied something called lean manufacturing principles to the way we taught the workshop in order to eliminate waste. If anyone wants to discuss lean or anything as it applies to education, I can do that at the table here later. But again, like I promised, the long story short is we were able to eliminate so much waste in the educational process that we were doing that we were able to spend a lot more time, instead of just demonstrating the kits, actually getting the kits into the teachers' hands. And the more they were able to use the kits, the more comfortable they were with using the kits. So our utilization increased to the tune of up to 90% is what we've measured directly from those workshops. This has come full circle in the idea that we now have adopters who do have fabrication ability and who are not only using the kits, but they're also using the materials in their workshop to duplicate the whole workshop. So we've seen more spread than we ever expected.
And those two adopters are in the room. We've got Robert Tufts from USF, and we've got Rick Hendrickson and Christy and crew from North Dakota. All right, so in closing, we didn't just do this workshop thing and left it there. We continuously improve and leverage the synergy methods and language, and it's now part of our business process. So, you know, we've applied the synergy ideas to the kits and modules to scale them. We encourage shift. We try to get feedback from everyone who uses our materials so we can improve them. Our online presence has been growing a lot. We do a lot of different types of dissemination paths through there, multiple venues. We've applied some of the principles to our industry advisory board. Okay, and as a result of that, we're actually setting up courses online for a small, medium scale MEMS enterprise in California called IMT. So they're using our materials to train their incoming folks. In our proposal, I started using some of the elements I learned from telling a story. And now we're applying the value matrices, which we talked about in January. So we can track immediate, potential, applied, realized, and reframing value. And now we're targeting our scaling process to apply it to a cluster project, and I can tell you more about that later, where we identify and target key folks who want to use our stuff. And time is being called, so I'm done.
Hi, everybody. I'm James from MPICT. And we are experiencing in our lifetimes a revolution, a paradigm shift. When I finished college, I had never seen a computer. And today, I can't do anything without one. Everything has changed. In the 20th century, we were in manufacturing and transportation economies. We built things, we sent them around, we traded, we succeeded. Now we're in information, knowledge, and innovation economies. The whole world's changing. There's an information and communication technologies revolution. That's what ICT stands for. It's a term that's used everywhere else in the world except the US. It's a big bucket that you throw all the computer-related stuff in. And our center is deliberately taking that big picture view, trying to make sense of this space and fix some of the many things that are broken in it. For example, we know there's lots of workforce demand. It's 1 in 20 jobs today in the US are ICT workforce jobs. They pay twice the median, they're growing rapidly, and employers can't find appropriately skilled workers, even in this rotten economy, which is messed up. But then you look at how they do jobs. We did a study of one of our markets, 2,300 job postings, more than 1,900 different job titles. So it's a chaotic, broken expression of workforce demand, and how does education make sense of that? Well, education's response is chaotic too. California, where we're from, 112 colleges, 295 different departments deliver these things. They're called all sorts of different things. They're in all sorts of different departments. They offer more than 600 different degrees. They have more than 400 different unique titles. And even when the titles are the same, the content's different. There's 1,500 different academic certificates. There's more than 1,100 different titles for those certificates. Basically, this space is chaos. There aren't 3 people in this room with the same understanding of what this space is. So that's what we do as a center, is to work on problems in this area. And we were fortunate to attend the Synergy event in 2008, right when we were kicking off as a center. And these concepts of scale took hold for us, and they've really informed a lot of what we do. The project that we chose for Synergy had to do with something we saw this guy doing, which was to teach in-person classes at the same time he had a headset on, and he had students coming in interactively on the internet. And it just creates a more dynamic and engaging experience. It's using these technologies to improve student outcomes. You can archive the classes, so you can come back and listen to that lecture. It changes student behaviors. You know, they no longer furiously write down every word. They can come back and revisit things later. Their notes are like, oh, that was an interesting idea, or here's what I think as I hear that. So better student outcomes. We realize that in the different silos, in the different schools, for the most part, people are teaching the lower level classes where you can put butts in seats routinely. But there's an unmet need for more advanced and specialized classes, and if we could do that at one school to students at many schools, it would make a big difference. One of the great things in the Synergy process for us was understanding the concept of shift, because as we tried to teach people to do that, a lot of people did, and we've had some good results with that. But there were also a whole bunch of people using these tools to improve ICT education in ways that we'd never thought about at all. And you know, if that's our mission, to improve ICT education, and we get people to use these tools in some way that does that with, you know, whether it's the way we wanted them to or not, that's legitimate. And there have been some really cool things. You know, people using, it's like Adobe WebEx, or Cisco WebEx, or Adobe Connect, or Blackboard Collaborate. You know, department meetings that are held using these tools, and advisory meetings where people can come in from outside, and having guest lecturers from industry. At the winter conference, we let people come in and attend presentation sessions remotely. We archive them, we put them all on our YouTube channel, so they're seen by thousands of people. So Synergy's been a great process for us, and we've grown a lot through it.
I'm going to try to show a quick clip.
Bringing in young talent to my team just definitely stirs the pot. Boston Public High School students just have a raw aptitude and talent, you know, growing up with the internet, and that brings a fresh and different perspective to my team's work and projects.
What Nick is saying is that the internship changed his life, and we actually, I'm from Boston Public Schools and BATEC team. My name's Felicia Vargas, and we've been running a very successful internship program at the high school level. And we invited about 6 of our graduates back to come and film and tell their story about where they are now. And Nick is working at Akamai Technology. Candace has gotten a job with Mullen Advertising. One student started his own business, Brilliant Geeks. So we have stories to tell, and our innovation was, could we bring this model and have it adopted by and scaled by community college. And so we actually had very fortunate that we had 2 community colleges in the BATEC partnership that were willing to scale. And I always thought, would somebody in Texas think, why weren't we scaling it in Massachusetts first? So it was nice to start in our own backyard and work out the kinks, and there were kinks. We had developed what we thought was a wonderful manual, and we just could hand it to some community college, and they could just replicate it. And first of all, they couldn't read it, and not that because it was in another language, but high school speak is different than college or community college speak. So they couldn't even get past the idea that we call them teachers and summer and instead of semesters and faculty. So that was the stumbling block number one. We went back to the drawing board, rewrote our manual, and we experienced some really interesting innovations, adaptions. We found that we had to let it go and see where it went. And the community colleges have experienced some success. There are challenges, but we sort of feel we're ready to scale after all this. So I'd love to talk to anybody who's interested in our model a little later on.